money.
Yeah.
If the drug companies didn't have to prove efficacy, they could get these drugs on the market inexpensively and let the doctors and the patients determine if they want to take them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, why does the government have to say, we've deemed this drug okay? After you spent $1 billion, you know, on tests that took 3 years to complete. You know, and now the company has to make up all that cost. It's not like the company wants to charge this much. They have to.
They have to.
They got no cost. Yeah.
Well, that's why we're going to send you to Washington, Peter. These are the things that you're going to work on down there. We'll finally get some good representation from Connecticut.
And I mean, it's a
honest
cottage industry.
representation.
A long time coming.
Yes,
Yeah, we need
honest.
it. We need it. We need it. But I mean, even for the lawyers and everyone in the process, it's a cottage industry. You know, the road from A to B. Okay, we've invented this drug. We want to get it approved. And everyone has their take, and that's the problem.
Yeah, well, that's what we've done. Government is an industry in and of itself, and it wants to get bigger. It wants to grow, but it feeds off us. It's like a giant parasite.
Yeah.
It gets bigger, and we're the host, and, you know, we get sicker and sicker. But, you know, eventually it's going to die as well, because if it kills the host, right, then it can't survive either, because it has to be able to take the resources from the private sector.
Yeah.
But when you get the government so big that the amount of resources it needs are now so huge that it, you know, you kill the economy. And that we're already at that stage right now. So we got to unwind this.
Yeah.
You know, and it's, you know, someone's got to come in there and just you know,
The well is
clean
almost
house.
dry. There's no money, so it's done.
Yeah,
We're
so
going to be just like Greece.
yeah, and they're just gonna. Well, it's gonna be worse because we're gonna print money. Greece. You know, you look at what's going on in Europe right now. There, at least Germany is cutting. You know, France. They're having budget cuts. They're telling their people we got to stop spending. We're over there telling them to keep spending. We had the nerve to send Geithner over to the G20 to tell the Europeans that they need to spend more. That they need to stimulate. Meanwhile, we're not going to make any of those hard choices ourselves.
Yeah.
We're telling them we're talking about another stimulus. Spend more. Keep on buying. I mean, we haven't even figured out what the problem is yet. You know, at least in Europe, they understand the problem. We're clueless about the problem.
Yes, we are.
And so we're just making it worse. You know, but right now we're still benefiting because people are still lending us money because they haven't, you know, connected the dots yet. They will.
How long do you think before they downgrade the credit again?
Huh?
How long do you think before they downgrade the credit of Connecticut again?
Yeah, you know, who knows? I don't know why it isn't any. They only lowered it, you know, to AA or something. It's on negative watch, so it's going to be down.
Yeah.
AAA. It was AAA, but people have realized that Connecticut, we can't pay the money back because we're already at a point where the deficit is so big that if they raise taxes again, it's just going to drive more businesses out of the state.
Yeah.
And so they're going to end up collecting less revenue. So the only way that they can, you know, balance the books is with spending cuts, aggressive spending cuts that they refuse to make. I mean, across the board, including salaries, benefits to, you know, current workers, to retired workers, because they overpromised. The bureaucrats made too many promises that the taxpayers can't keep.
Yeah.
And they're afraid to tell the truth because they're thinking that they'll take out their frustration at the polls and they won't get reelected. But so either they're going to default or they're going to cut. But that's it. You know, and they might hopefully they don't get a bailout. I mean, I don't want to see Washington bail out Connecticut.
Yeah.
Because if they bail out Connecticut, they're bailing out everybody.
That's right.
And you know, I mean, the money is going to collapse. You know, and I don't want, you know, I want the government cutting. See, whenever there's a bailout, it prevents the government from making the necessary cuts. If they just get the money from Washington, then they don't have to cut. But where does Washington get the money? They get it from us. There's no free lunch.
Right hand to right pocket to the left pocket.
You know, and so if they have to raise taxes on the federal level so that the states don't have to cut spending, I mean, how is that helping us?
Then it just makes the states tributaries of the feds, and really that then gets at the sovereignty issue. And the states always resist the
Abolish was the 17th Amendment. That's what you got to get rid of there, right?
Yeah.
The states back on their own.
Yeah, you know what I want to ask you about the 10th Amendment? Just the same way that Judge Napolitano sees it.
Yeah, well, there's only one way to see it.
Yeah, right.
I mean, the 10th Amendment, without the 10th Amendment, the whole Constitution is meaningless. The 10th Amendment basically describes what the Constitution means.
Right.
And the 10th Amendment says that if it's not written in here, the federal government can't do it.
Yeah.
The federal government only has the powers that are expressly enumerated in the Constitution. The states, the Constitution says all the things the state can't do. And if the state doesn't if the Constitution doesn't say a state can't do it, then the state can do it. Now, of course, it doesn't mean that the states can do whatever they want, because all the states have their own constitutions that limit their powers. Right? So, but the Constitution was not written to limit the powers of the state so much. It was written to limit the powers of the federal government by only enumerating
what's already in the Constitution.
Yeah. And there's Article 1, Section 8. And there's only a few things they can do.
Right.
Right. And problem is they're doing all these things that they can't do. And that's the problem. And so we got to get people to understand that all the senators take an oath to uphold the Constitution. They have to start honoring that oath. Because no one's honoring it now.
When do you think the printing press will stop? Where is it going to stop?
When they run out of ink, when they run out of trees. Now, hopefully we can get it to stop sooner than that. But
what if nothing is done? Is it just going to run to infinity?
Well, if nothing is done and the government can't borrow anymore and they resort to printing 100% of the needs to finance the government and keep us spending, then they will destroy the money. And it ends when nobody will accept it, when the money is completely worthless. Which it could happen because what is it? It is a piece of paper. There is no intrinsic value to the United States dollar. It's a paper with ink on it. And it has value because people think it has value. And the only reason it has value is because it's scarce. Because there's not an unlimited quantity of it. But the minute it ceases to be scarce, the minute they're just running it off and printing it off, then nobody will accept it. It will have no value, and it will ultimately be worth its intrinsic value, which is zero. That's why gold hit another new high this morning before I left the office. I mean, people are figuring this out. Gold's going up for a reason, and it's going up because the money is being debased and people are figuring it out. When we were doing it right, at least when we were shrinking government and when Reagan was, the price of gold was falling during the 1980s. Different time now.
Yeah, Peter, I got to run hand.
All right, thanks
I got the rest of my petitions I got to hand.
Yeah, make sure you get them in.
I'm on my way right now.
Thank you,
Peter.